This is an analysis from Alpha Business Media.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us for this latest deep dive. Today, we are examining the intricacies of high-end market strategy. Specifically, we're looking at the mechanics of selling to Nepal's quiet wealth.
It's a fascinating area.
It really is. And if you are joining us, you are likely doing so because you have a vested interest in consumer psychology, luxury market architecture, or, the hidden gears that drive elite economies.
Right. The mechanics most people don't see.
Exactly. Consider this an essential briefing. Our mission today is highly specific and perhaps a bit contrarian. We're going to deconstruct exactly why the standard MBA-taught marketing tactics you see everywhere actively destroy value when you are targeting the top 1%.
It is a critical topic to analyze. I mean, the dynamics of luxury markets are so frequently misunderstood as simply selling expensive things to people who have a lot of money.
Which seems logical on the surface.
It does, but the reality of wealth, particularly in a rapidly evolving economy like Nepal's, is far more complex. It's highly fragmented. Most corporate strategies treat wealth as a monolith.
Just one big demographic.
Exactly. And that assumption is costing them their most valuable potential clients.
Okay, let's unpack this. To really grasp the divide, I want you to picture two completely different luxury car purchases. They're happening on the exact same afternoon in Kathmandu.
Same day, same dealership.
Right. Let's look at scene one. This takes place in a highly visible, glass-fronted dealership in Naxal. It's a bustling commercial hub.
Highly trafficked.
Very. So a young entrepreneur who perhaps just closed a really lucrative real estate deal is aggressively haggling over the final price of a brand new, top-of-the-line SUV.
Pushing for every rupee.
Pushing hard. He seals the deal, secures a visible discount, and within 5 minutes, there is a photo of the vehicle on Instagram. It is fully geotagged, hashtagged, shared with thousands of followers. That purchase is a deliberate public announcement to the world.
That is a very familiar scenario in emerging markets. But then we have to consider the second scene, which happens at that exact same dealership just hours later.
The contrast is startling. The showroom is now officially closed. The dealership owner receives a call on a private, unlisted line.
Discretion from the very first contact.
Exactly. A discreet, unmarked vehicle arrives at a side entrance. A scion of a third-generation industrial family walks in to silently customize a limited edition sedan. There is absolutely no negotiation on the price tag.
Not at all.
He pays the full premium without a second thought. But his demand is absolute privacy regarding the timeline, the custom finishes, and the transaction itself. This purchase will never see the light of a social media feed.
What's fascinating here is that these two buyers represent the great divergence in wealth psychology.
Great divergence.
Yes, they are both incredibly wealthy. They are both buying top-tier luxury vehicles on the same day from the same owner, but treating them as the same target audience is the single most expensive marketing mistake a brand can make.
Because they want totally different things from the purchase.
Precisely. One buyer fundamentally requires a megaphone to validate the purchase, and the other buyer requires a vault.
So what does this all mean for a brand trying to navigate this space? We need to spend some time mapping the psychological profiles of these two entirely different tribes. Because understanding the origin of the capital dictates the psychology of how that capital is deployed.
That's the foundational rule here.
Let's start with that first buyer in the glass showroom. We can refer to this group as the new rich, or the nouveau riche. If you look at where this wealth comes from in the region, it is a very specific post-conflict economic scramble.
You're looking at massive fortunes built relatively overnight.
Right. Through land speculation, the booming manpower agencies sending labor abroad, lucrative government contracts, or even the recent surge in regional tech startups.
And because the wealth itself is a new phenomenon for these individuals, their social status within the elite echelons of society is also unestablished.
They don't have that generational anchor.
They don't. Therefore, their primary psychological driver is social signaling. For this demographic, wealth must be highly visible to be validated. They utilize luxury brands not necessarily for intrinsic appreciation, but as a vocabulary to announce their arrival.
It's a statement.
A loud one. They are hyper-aware of prominent logos, overt brand prestige, and crucially, what their immediate peer group is purchasing. Their consumption is conspicuously engineered to attract attention and assert dominance.
I want to stop and challenge a paradox here, though. We just established they have immense capital and want to show it off. Yet, The young entrepreneur in our first scene spent time aggressively haggling over the price of the SUV.
Yes, the negotiation.
If they have millions and want to project financial invincibility, why are they arguing over a few $1,000s? Why wouldn't they just pay the sticker price and move on?
It seems counterintuitive, I know. But for the new rich, securing that discount is actually a required performance.
The performance?
Exactly. It is a demonstration of the very traits that made them wealthy in the first place. Their shrewdness, their negotiating power, their grit, their business acumen.
So they're proving they still have it.
Yes. It gives them a narrative to attach to the vehicle. The discount proves they are savvy operators who cannot be taken advantage of.
That makes a lot of sense. The negotiation itself is a status symbol. But that also makes them an incredibly transactional audience.
Highly transactional.
If their loyalty is tied to the performance of getting a deal, their loyalty is ultimately fleeting. They are loyal to the next best offer or the newest, loudest status symbol that hits the market.
Which means they represent high volume for a luxury brand, absolutely, but extremely low brand loyalty. Building a business model around them creates a high churn, high stress environment.
Which is precisely why astute brands must understand the second tribe, quiet wealth or old money. This is the buyer coming in through the side door after hours. The foundation of this wealth is fundamentally different.
It's rooted in entirely different soil.
It is often inherited, meticulously managed by private family offices, and rooted in multi-generational enterprises. We are talking about legacy trading houses that date back generations to the Rana-era families, whose influence and capital predate modern democracy in the region.
Or the massive, privately held industrial conglomerates.
Right, operating quietly down in the Burgunj-Biratnagar corridor, which is the industrial backbone of the country. They have weathered decades of severe political and economic instability.
And because of that history, their core psychological driver is entirely inverted. It isn't signaling. It is discretion and preservation.
Preservation of the legacy.
Exactly. Their social standing has been cemented for generations. It requires zero external validation. For quiet wealth, absolute privacy is the ultimate luxury. They do not consume for public applause. They consume for personal fulfillment, heritage, and uncompromising quality.
It's internal versus external.
Yes. For this group, a brand is a deeply personal choice reflecting internal values, not a billboard. In fact, if a brand achieves widespread mass appeal, that is an immediate disqualifier for them.
Which is a huge shift in perspective.
And we must clarify a very common misconception here.
Right.
Quiet wealth is not price insensitive. They did not maintain generational wealth by being careless with capital.
They aren't just throwing money away.
Not at all. Rather, they are profoundly value-driven. They will gladly authorize massive premiums, but only for provenance, unparalleled craftsmanship, and exclusive access. They are a deeply relational audience, not a transactional one.
They demand trust and legacy, not loud logos and aggressive discounts.
Exactly.
That brings us to a major point of friction with standard business strategy. Let's get into the paradox of price. Every standard MBA playbook and the first week of any microeconomics class teaches a fundamental unbreakable rule. Lower price equals higher demand.
The basic law of demand.
Right. You drop the price, you expand your addressable market, you move more inventory.
But in the realm of true luxury, and specifically when dealing with this old money segment, that logic completely collapses. We have to analyze this through the economic concept of Veblen goods.
Veblen goods.
Yes. A Veblen good completely breaks the law of demand. You know how normally if a product is cheaper, you buy more of it. With a Veblen good, demand actually increases as the price increases.
So the high price tag isn't a barrier to entry.
No. The high price tag is the central feature. It provides an ironclad signal of exclusivity and quality that is deliberately inaccessible to the broader public.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially when we apply this to a practical real-world scenario. Imagine a high-end luxury brand, perhaps a Swiss watchmaker or a German automaker operating in Kathmandu. They decide to offer a 15% Dashain discount.
The festival season push.
Right. Now, Dashain is the biggest festival season of the year in Nepal, traditionally time for major purchases. To a regional sales director trying to hit quarterly targets, offering a 15% festival discount seems like a brilliant, culturally relevant way to boost Q3 numbers.
To the MBA graduate, it is a textbook move. But to the old money observer, that 15% discount is a blaring red flag. It actively repels them.
It pushes them away.
Entirely. When a brand does this, two catastrophic things happen simultaneously. First, it signals that the brand's original list price was arbitrary and artificially inflated. It shatters the illusion of intrinsic, uncompromised value.
The trust in the pricing is gone.
Yes. Think of a Patek Philippe timepiece. If a Patek could suddenly be purchased at a 15% discount because it's a holiday, it fundamentally ceases to be a Patek Philippe in the eyes of a collector. The integrity of its price is intrinsically tied to the integrity of its value.
It is essentially an ecological collapse for the brand's prestige. Because the second thing that happens is the discount acts as a democratizing agent.
It opens the floodgates.
By lowering the financial barrier to entry just enough, you invite in the highly visible, status-seeking new rich. Suddenly, the product is more common. It is highly visible on social media feeds. The exclusivity is instantaneously ruined.
The brand has successfully traded decades of painstakingly built long-term equity for a very brief, short-term sales spike.
And the damage is done.
The psychological damage in that tier is permanent. The moment an old money client sees the limited edition single malt whiskey, they prefer being aggressively pushed with a buy one, get one promotion at a premium supermarket. That brand is instantly demoted in their mind from true luxury to premium mass.
Premium mass.
Yes. The trust is gone, and regaining it is nearly impossible.
Let's ground this in a massive financial commitment to really see the impact. Think about high-end real estate. Imagine a developer launching an enclave of luxury villas in Bhutan, which is a highly prestigious residential area.
A crime location.
The villas are priced around 15 crore rupees, which, for context, is well over $1 million US, a staggering premium in the local market.
Significant capital.
The developer has sold most of the project but wants to close out the final few units before the end of the fiscal year. So they quietly offer a substantial discount to move the remaining inventory. Naturally, the new rich buyers jump on it. It is a fantastic deal for a highly coveted status address.
Now, put yourself in the shoes of the established industrialist, the quiet wealth buyer. He has been carefully evaluating this project, considering purchasing 2 of these properties outright as multi-generational legacy assets for his family.
He has the liquid capital ready.
Ready to deploy. But then he becomes aware of this discount being offered to close out the project. He immediately halts the transaction.
Why, though? I mean, he's a businessman. Wouldn't he just demand the same discount or an even steeper one for buying 2 units?
Because to him, the discount isn't a savings opportunity. It is a structural warning sign. First, it signals that the project itself might be struggling or overvalued. But far more importantly, it guarantees that his future neighbors will be deal seekers.
They aren't his peers.
Exactly. They're buyers who were lured by a price cut, not people who recognize the inherent, uncompromising value of the property from day one. He isn't just buying a house. He is buying into an exclusive, curated community. By discounting the final units, the developer just lowered the barrier to entry for that community.
So the industrialist quietly pulls out of the negotiation entirely. He takes his capital, hires a private architect, and builds a custom off-market compound instead.
And the developer loses out on the real prize.
The developer won the immediate battle by selling those last few units and hitting their annual target, but they absolutely lost the war for the very top of the market. They lost the generational capital.
And that reality requires a total operational pivot for anyone operating at this level. If mass advertising visibility and festival discounts actively repel the most valuable buyers in the economy, how does a brand actually penetrate the quiet wealth segment?
You have to completely dismantle and flip the traditional sales funnel.
Turn it upside down.
The architecture of exclusivity relies entirely on an invite-only ecosystem. It replaces the loud megaphone of mass digital advertising with the quiet whisper of a trusted, verified introduction. There are 3 core principles required to execute this successfully.
Principle 1 requires a shift from demographic targeting to network mapping. The era of targeting high-net-worth individuals using filters on Facebook or LinkedIn is entirely obsolete for this tier.
Because they aren't engaging with those ads anyway.
Quiet wealth actively disconnects from those public channels. You cannot reach them through a digital algorithm. Instead, brands must identify and meticulously cultivate deep, authentic relationships with the central nodes and real-world gatekeepers of their private networks.
And these gatekeepers are very specific. We aren't talking about social media influencers with 1 million followers. We are talking about the chairpersons of the Royal Nepal Golf Club. We are talking about the quiet, discerning patrons who fund private art galleries in Bhutan. We are talking about the heads of specialized family offices who manage generational wealth.
Those are the true nodes of influence.
The strategy here is not to buy an advertisement to show these gatekeepers a product. The strategy is to provide genuine, unprompted value directly to their network. You don't sponsor a massive public rock concert in Thal, the tourist district. You underwrite a private, closed-door chamber music recital for 50 invited guests.
You curate the environment.
You become a sophisticated facilitator of exclusive experiences, earning trust entirely by association.
Which leads directly into principle 2, the concierge as the primary sales channel. In an invite-only model, the traditional quota-driven salesperson is a massive liability.
They're too pushy.
Exactly. That role must be elevated to a personal concierge or a dedicated relationship manager. And their key performance indicator, their KPI, is completely inverted. They are not measured on weekly or monthly sales volume. They are evaluated on the depth and utility of their relationships.
The service itself becomes the primary value proposition, outshining the actual product. Consider this scenario. A client from a highly prominent industrial family casually mentions to their relationship manager at a luxury auto brand that they're trying to locate a very specific, rare piece of antique Nepali art for their private collection.
Now, the auto brand obviously does not sell art.
Right, but the concierge leverages their own extensive global network to locate, vet, and secure that exact piece for the client. In that single transaction, the auto brand has transformed from a simple vendor of vehicles into an indispensable, highly trusted resource for the client's broader lifestyle.
Or examine the private banking sector. A relationship manager gets a call at 2 in the morning because a client has an urgent situation and needs a private jet routed to Singapore by sunrise.
A high-stakes request.
Well, that client doesn't call a charter company, they call their banker. Why? Because they know that specific individual implicitly understands their absolute demand for operational privacy and frictionless execution.
The trust is already there.
When a brand provides that level of anticipatory, highly discreet service, price tags and promotional discounts become entirely irrelevant. You are no longer selling to them. You are a lifelong operational partner.
That brings us to principle 3, which governs how a brand introduces something new to this market: the private unveiling. We discussed the young entrepreneur aggressively posting his new car on Instagram. That is the essence of a public launch.
The megaphone approach.
But to capture quiet wealth, a brand cannot rely on a grand ribbon-cutting ceremony at a flagship store in Durbar Marg, surrounded by media. You execute a private unveiling.
It is an exercise in extreme curation. Instead of buying billboards across the city, imagine a high-fashion house flying their head designer directly from Milan to Kathmandu.
Bringing the source directly to them.
Yes. They secure a residency at a deeply historic heritage location like the Dwarkas Hotel. They then curate a fiercely restricted, non-transferable guest list of exactly 30 women representing the country's most established families.
And crucially, during this 3-day residency, there is absolutely no overt selling permitted. No price tags are displayed. It is entirely focused on the experience. It is a private consultation.
The conversation shifts.
The dialogue is strictly about the historical story behind the collection, the provenance and sourcing of the fabric, and providing direct, unmediated access to the creator. The actual commercial transactions happen entirely organically within that closed, highly secure environment.
And because the financial aspect is handled privately, it creates an organic legend.
Those 30 women return to their closed, highly influential social circles and whisper about the unparalleled experience.
Yeah.
That quiet whisper within an elite network carries 1,000 times more weight than the most expensive, highly produced public advertising campaign ever could.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to evaluate the strategic horizon for business in this region. As the economy continues its structural transformation and maturation, wealth is only going to concentrate further at the top.
It's inevitable.
That psychological and operational divide between the highly visible, transactional new rich and the discrete, relational old money is going to sharpen dramatically.
The strategic outlook points toward 2 very distinct future scenarios for premium businesses. Scenario A is what we can call the crowded middle. This is the default destination for the vast majority of brands that simply maintain the status quo.
The ones that refuse to adapt.
They will continue chasing the highly visible, easily identifiable wealth of the new rich. They will utilize aggressive celebrity endorsements, high-visibility digital campaigns, and an endless cycle of festival discounts to drive volume. it inevitably becomes a bloodbath.
A race to the bottom.
An intensely competitive, high-churn, low-margin environment where brand loyalty is practically non-existent and price is the only differentiator.
Conversely, scenario B is the great bifurcation. A very small, highly disciplined cohort of brands will recognize that conventional mass tactics are actively sabotaging their top-tier potential.
They'll pull away from the pack.
They will pivot decisively into the invite-only model. They will divert marketing budgets away from public advertising and invest heavily in sophisticated relationship managers, high-value experiential networking, and mastering the strict protocols of absolute discretion.
These are the brands that will successfully capture the quiet wealth segment.
By doing so, they will construct unassailable, high-margin business moats that are completely insulated from the frantic price wars tearing apart the crowded middle.
But reaching scenario B requires confronting a very uncomfortable reality, doesn't it? It requires entirely rethinking how success is measured internally.
Yes, that is the hard truth of navigating this tier of the economy. The primary obstacle to capturing quiet wealth is rarely a lack of financial resources, product quality, or marketing budget.
It's an internal barrier.
The obstacle is almost always internal corporate culture. The vast majority of modern corporate cultures are obsessively driven by quarterly sales targets, immediate return on investment, and highly visible metrics. But you cannot penetrate an elite multi-generational social ecosystem with a frantic quarterly mindset.
It takes time.
You cannot force your way in. You have to be patiently, strategically invited in. It requires a profound, often uncomfortable shift at the executive level, from transactional, volume-based thinking to the slow, deliberate accumulation of patient, long-term relational capital.
To synthesize what we've unpacked for you today, treating all wealth as a single homogeneous target market is a catastrophic error in high-end strategy. The new rich seek out visibility, public validation, and the performative victory of a discount. Quiet wealth demands the exact opposite.
Absolute discretion.
Discretion, the preservation of legacy, and unparalleled frictionless service. By utilizing common discounts and mass visibility advertising, premium brands actively pollute their own exclusivity. But by meticulously mapping private networks, elevating salespeople to indispensable concierges, and replacing public launches with private unveilings, brands can build an unassailable moat at the very top of the market.
It really is a masterclass in understanding that, at a certain level of wealth, the deliberate absence of visible marketing is often the most powerful and persuasive marketing strategy a brand can deploy.
In the highest echelons of business, whispering to the right, highly curated network is infinitely more profitable than shouting at the masses. I completely agree. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. It's a scenario that stretches just beyond the horizon we've discussed today.
Looking to the future.
If quiet wealth currently relies so heavily on offline discretion, physical, real-world gatekeepers, like golf club chairpersons, and highly traditional legacy institutions, what happens to this carefully curated, invite-only ecosystem when this multi-generational wealth inevitably transfers to a younger, digitally native cohort?
A very different landscape.
When the heirs of these industrial empires take control, will the very definition of discretion have to be entirely rewritten for the digital age? It is a strategic shift worth watching very closely in the years to come. Thank you for joining us for this analysis from Alpha Business Media.